In the heart of a dying winter, where even fire dares not burn too long, a lone warrior named Kale stumbled upon a forgotten camp buried in snow and silence. Among the refugees, two figures sat unmoved by the cold, blue-skinned, frost-kissed, and staring through the storm like they had seen the end of the world before. Naira and Elin were not like the others. Their presence made the air colder, the shadows deeper. Rumors whispered through the camp spoke of iceborn sisters, creatures of ancient power, bound by a curse that turned warmth to ice and memories to frost. Kale had only come for shelter, but the moment he stepped under their dimly lit tent, something shifted. The snow around them no longer felt like nature, it felt like warning. As the cold closed in and creatures from the old world emerged from the frost, Kale was faced with a choice: turn away and survive, or stand with the cursed and fight a war that had been frozen in time for centuries. Some legends are told, others are lived, in the silence between snowflakes and the warmth we're willing to die for. The wind screamed through the valley like a wounded beast. Snow fell in sheets, thick and relentless, covering the trail behind Kale as if erasing his very existence. His boots sank into the white with every step, legs aching, breath fogging into frozen mist. The mountain pass he had followed had long disappeared behind curtains of ice and time. He was alone, until he wasn't. Through the whiteout, dim lanterns flickered in the distance. At first, he thought it a trick of exhaustion. But as he moved closer, shapes emerged. Makeshift tents, shivering fires, hunched figures bundled in scraps of cloth and animal hide. A camp, alive, barely, surviving, somehow. Kale staggered through the outer ring, past hollow faces and empty stares. No one greeted him. No one asked who he was or where he had come from. These were people who had stopped asking questions long ago. At the camp's heart, a strange warmth pulsed beneath a tattered canvas shelter. Not warmth from fire. This was something older, colder, yet oddly alive. He stepped inside. They looked up. Two women sat crouched near iron pots steaming with a thick broth. Both were blue. Not painted, not sick, but born of frost itself. Their skin shimmered like glacial ice, pale as moonlight, but veined with silver threads that pulsed faintly with life. Snow clung to their hair, though none fell inside. They didn't flinch at the cold. In fact, they seemed to wear it like a second skin. The one on the left, shorter, wiry, eyes like chipped sapphire, studied Kale with narrowed suspicion. The other, older perhaps, with long silver braids and a haunting calmness, merely blinked at him, as if measuring his soul. "You shouldn't be here," the braided one said softly. "I could say the same," Kale replied, lowering his hood. "But I'm not here for trouble, just warmth." The two women exchanged a look, silent and heavy with meaning. Then the older one nodded to the pot. "Sit, eat, if you're brave enough." Kale hesitated only a moment. His body begged for rest, for heat, for food, anything but the merciless cold outside. He lowered himself onto the fur-covered crate near the fireless pit. The broth smelled rich, strange, and entirely unfamiliar. "I'm Kale," he offered. "We don't share names," said the younger one flatly. The older one softened. "You may call me Elin. That is enough." Kale nodded. He glanced around the tent. No firewood, no embers. The warmth came from them. It radiated in subtle pulses, like a heartbeat made of snowflakes. It was unnatural, but comforting. "Who are you really?" Kale asked quietly. Elin stirred the pot. "Refugees, like the rest, only older and colder." Kale almost laughed, but the look in her eyes stopped him. There was pain in that gaze. Loss, memory, eternity. A gust shook the tent flaps. The world outside screamed louder, but inside, time seemed to slow. And then he noticed no one else in the camp came near this tent. No footsteps in the snow, No shadows at the edges. Just silence. Isolation. What are you hiding from? Kale finally asked. This time, both women looked at him. The younger one, Naira, though she hadn't given a name, spoke in a whisper that felt like a snowflake landing on bare skin. Not hiding. Waiting. For what? Elan's voice was calm, distant. For the cold to remember us. And in that moment, Kale knew. He hadn't found a place to rest. He'd stepped into something ancient, something cursed, and whatever warmth he had felt might be the last he would ever know. The broth lingered on Kale's tongue long after the bowl had emptied. It was rich, spiced with something he couldn't name, neither meat nor plant, yet undeniably nourishing. It warmed his gut, but left a strange coldness at the edge of his spine, like something ancient had settled inside him. Naira had said little since his arrival, choosing instead to silently observe him with wary, almost predatory eyes. Elan, by contrast, was gentle but distant, her words carefully chosen, as if each sentence had a price. "I've seen many things in the north," Kale began, setting down the empty bowl. "Frost trolls, blood wolves, but nothing like you." Naira gave a half-smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You haven't seen us yet." Elan exhaled slowly, her breath curling like mist. "What you saw tonight was only the surface. We were born before this camp, before these people, before even the first walls of this kingdom were built." Kale leaned forward. "You're not human." "No," Elan said, without pride or shame. "We were once something else. Iceborn daughters of frost, bound to the old winter gods, made of ice and silence. But we broke the laws of our kind." Kale frowned. "What laws?" Naira stood, brushing snow from her knees. Her tone was sharp. "We loved. We tried to live among humans. Thought we could escape the cold, blend in. But you didn't escape, did you?" Elan shook her head. "No. Love, to the Iceborn, is a sin worse than death. It melts our edges, softens the soul, weakens our purpose." Kale looked between them, the weight of their words settling in. "So they cursed you." "They didn't just curse us," Naira snapped. "They hunted us." Elan's voice trembled like a frozen leaf. "Our sisters were taken, shattered and reformed into servants of the Ice King. Naira and I fled, and now we wait, because the curse doesn't end with escape." Kale's blood chilled. "What does it do?" Elan looked him in the eye. "It spreads. Slowly. Anyone who stays near us too long begins to change. Their heart loses heat. Emotions dull. They forget their warmth, their names, their purpose." Kale thought of the people outside, the blank faces, the silence, the lack of curiosity or fear. Refugees, yes, but something more, something wrong. "They're fading," he whispered. Naira nodded. "We tried to leave, but winter follows us. We tried to hide, but the cold remembers. And now we're running out of time." A long silence followed, broken only by the soft bubbling of the pot. Snow drifted through a hole in the tent, settling on Elan's shoulder like a familiar companion. Then why help them at all? Kale asked. "Why feed them if it kills them?" "Because," Elan said softly, "it's the only part of us that's still human, the only warmth we have left." For the first time, Kale felt more than curiosity. He felt sorrow. These weren't monsters. They were exiles of a dying world, punished for seeking what every soul craved: love, belonging, warmth. And now, they were trapped in a slow apocalypse of their own making. Outside, the wind picked up, sharper than before. A low howl echoed through the camp, distant, but growing louder. Elan looked to the entrance. "They found us." Kale reached for the hilt of his blade. "Who?" Naira answered without looking at him. "The Frostbound. They've come to take us home." The howl outside wasn't just wind, it was a summons. Kale stood, hand on his sword, eyes scanning the edges of the tent. A pressure had entered the air, like the breath before a storm. The snow outside no longer fell lazily. It swirled in patterns, coiling and shifting, as if something unseen moved within it. "Frostbound?" he asked, low and steady. Naira's eyes glowed faintly as she nodded. Once they were our kin. Now they serve the Ice King, remade, reshaped, enslaved. Kale had heard tales in taverns and dying fires. Warriors of ice who hunted in silence, leaving no tracks, no survivors. Only statues of their prey, frozen mid-scream. He had dismissed those stories as myths. But myths, he was learning, were only truths buried in time. Elin reached behind a torn curtain, revealing a long, curved staff of etched bone. The runes along its shaft shimmered like frostbite under moonlight. "We have two choices," she said. "Run again or fight." Kale looked around. "You said the curse spreads. If they take you, what happens?" "They will reopen the ice gates," Elin answered. "A portal to the realm we fled. If they succeed, winter won't just haunt this camp. It will drown the world." Kale exhaled sharply. "Then we don't run." A distant crack echoed, like a glacier splitting open. Kale stepped outside the tent, blade drawn. The camp was still, too still. The people sat motionless, eyes glazed, breath thin and shallow. Snow clung to their lashes like dust on statues. "They're already slipping," Naira whispered behind him. Shapes began to emerge from the storm, figures tall and thin, wrapped in cloaks of swirling frost. Their faces were masked in sharp, jagged ice. No eyes, no mouths, just the crackle of moving glaciers with every step. 4, 6, 8 of them. Kale stepped forward. "What do they want?" "They've come for us," Elin said, "but they'll take everyone if they must." The Frostbound halted just outside the camp's fireless ring. One raised its hand, long, segmented fingers formed of frozen bone and ancient rune. It pointed directly at Elin. Naira's skin shimmered as she stepped forward, lifting her hand. Frost bloomed in the air, forming a wall between them and the creatures. "They fear warmth," she hissed. "Even now." Kale gripped his sword tighter. "Then let's burn." The Frostbound surged forward in eerie silence, gliding over the snow. Kale moved like instinct, blade cutting through the first, only to feel it pass halfway before meeting a frozen resistance. The creature howled. No sound, just vibration, and struck back with an icy claw. Kale blocked, but the force sent him skidding across the frozen earth. Naira unleashed a blast of frost fire, blue flames that hissed with cold. 2 Frostbound fell, writhing, melting from within, but more emerged. Elin began chanting. The staff in her hands vibrated as old runes lit up, pulsing with unnatural energy. Snow lifted into the air, spiraling toward the sky in a whirlwind. Kale pushed to his feet. His sword now glowed faintly blue. Frost from the creature's touch had fused with the steel. "They won't stop," he shouted. "Not until they have you." Elin opened her eyes. "Then we give them what they fear most." She slammed the staff into the ground. A ripple burst outward, knocking Kale and Naira off their feet. The Frostbound reeled, stumbling back as a ring of searing blue fire erupted around the camp. The snow screamed. For a moment, there was silence. Then, distant and terrible, came the crack of thunder from the mountains. "They know," Naira whispered. Kale looked at her, chest heaving. "Who?" She turned to him, eyes glowing like dying stars. "The Ice King. He knows we're still alive." The fire Elin summoned still burned, but it wasn't like any fire Kale had ever seen. It circled the camp in a glowing blue wall, hovering just above the snow, crackling softly like ice melting too fast. It didn't give off heat, at least not the kind one would expect. It was deeper, older, elemental. The Frostbound stood at its edge, hissing silently. They couldn't pass. Not yet. Kale stared at the line between them and death. What is that? Elan's voice trembled with fatigue. The last flame. A shard of the fire of the Iceborn. Our final gift. Or our final curse. Nyra knelt beside her sister, placing a hand on Elan's back. Her eyes were dark with understanding and grief. You swore never to call it again, Nyra said softly. You said it would kill you. I know, Elan replied. Kale stepped forward. What are you talking about? Elan looked at him with a calm resolve. This fire is the only thing that can stop the Ice King's return. It burns cold, but it unlocks warmth. Real warmth. The kind that breaks the curse. Nyra stood, her voice sharp. It doesn't just break the curse. It chooses one of us to burn. One of us must die to fuel it. Kale's breath caught. There has to be another way. There isn't, Elan said. Our curse is a cycle. We can run, hide, fight. But until one of us gives herself to the fire, it will always find us. The words hung heavy in the cold air. Kale's fists clenched. So what? You light this fire, die, and we all walk away free? That's it. No, Nyra said bitterly. You walk away free. We disappear. One to ash, one to memory. The wind howled again, and the Frostbound began to chant. Low, guttural sounds. The sky darkened. Ice gathered in the clouds above like a slow-falling avalanche. They're calling him, Elan whispered. He's coming. Kale turned to Nyra. Then let me do it. Use me. I'll burn instead. Nyra's face softened for the first time. You're brave, Kale, but you're human. This fire would only consume you. Only Iceborn blood can bind it. A deep silence followed. Too deep. Even the snow had stopped falling. Elan touched her sister's hand. It has to be me. No. Nyra snapped. You carried me through the last war. You kept me alive. I won't let you. You were always stronger, Nyra. You still have hope. I lost mine a long time ago. Kale stepped back, feeling helpless in the face of something far bigger than himself. Elan stood. Her hair glowed like silver fire. The staff pulsed once more, then shattered into 1,000 glimmering shards, vanishing like dust in the wind. She walked toward the center of the fire ring. Kale reached out, voice cracking. You don't have to. I do, Elan said, smiling softly. This is the price of warmth. She stepped into the flame. There was no scream, no pain, just light. The fire swelled, roaring to the heavens. The sky split with a thunderclap, and the Frostbound shrieked, their forms collapsing into shards of ice and shadow. The chanting stopped. The storm broke. For a moment, everything was still. Then silence. Kale opened his eyes. The fire was gone. So was Elan. Only Nyra stood at the center of the camp, kneeling in the snow, her head bowed, her hair dimmed to pale ash. She looked up, tears frozen on her cheeks. She chose to give us back the sun, she whispered, even if she never sees it again. Above them, for the first time in years, the clouds broke, and light touched the earth. The snow fell differently now. Where once it had been a weapon, cold, biting, relentless, it now drifted gently from the sky, soft as feathers. The storm was gone. The air, though still crisp, no longer carried that ancient dread. The iceborn fire had done more than banish the Frostbound. It had broken something far older, the chain that bound winter to vengeance. Kale stood silently at the edge of the camp, watching the horizon bloom with gold for the first time in weeks. The sunrise spilled over the mountains like a forgotten memory, painting the frost-kissed trees in hues of warmth. It was beautiful, and it hurt to look at, like seeing something you never thought you'd find again. Behind him, the camp was stirring. Slowly, carefully, the people, once half alive, now blinked with dazed clarity. Children clung to their mothers. Fire pits were lit again. Real fire this time. Not the illusion the sisters once gave. Laughter, uncertain and fragile, echoed for the first time in what felt like forever. And at the center of it all sat Naira. She hadn't spoken since Elin vanished into the flame. She sat in the snow where her sister had stood, hands resting in her lap, her eyes fixed on nothing in particular. Kale approached her quietly. "You saved them." Naira didn't look up. "She saved them." He knelt beside her. "You survived. That counts for something." Naira's voice was distant. Survival isn't always a victory. A long silence passed between them. Then she said more to herself than to him. She believed in something I couldn't. Even at the end, she believed the world could still be warm. Kale nodded. She was right. Naira finally looked at him. Her silver eyes, no longer glowing with magic, seemed softer now, more human. "I feel it," she whispered. "The curse is gone. The cold is still in me, but it doesn't control me anymore." Kale studied her face. "What will you do now?" She looked out over the waking camp. "I don't know. I've spent so long running, hiding, waiting for the cold to catch me. I never thought about what came after." He stood and extended a hand. "Then start here. Help rebuild. Help them live." Naira hesitated, then placed her hand in his. It was cool to the touch, but no longer chilling. Just different. "I don't know how to be human," she said softly. "None of us do," Kale replied. "We just try, one sunrise at a time." Together, they walked back toward the camp. By midday, the villagers had begun repairing tents, melting snow for water, even singing old songs forgotten during the long nights. The silence that once haunted the place had lifted. In its place was something fragile, but real. Hope. That night, Kale lit a small lantern and placed it atop the hill overlooking the camp. Next to it, Naira set down Elin's broken staff, what little remained of it after the fire. The runes were dark now, but still carved deep into the bone, a reminder of the price that was paid. As they stood side by side, Naira said, "Do you think she sees us?" Kale looked at the stars breaking through the clouds above. "I think she never stopped." And far above them, in the cold, clear sky, a single snowflake drifted down, glowing faintly as it fell, then vanished on the wind. A sign, a farewell, or perhaps a blessing. The cold would return. Seasons always did. But now the camp had fire, and the world had morning again.